Hey, Madam Chair, you're live.
Okay. I call this meeting of the Northborough Fire Station Building Committee to order pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and Act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To view or to listen, live stream link on YouTube. Okay. So the meeting has been called to order. Do I hear a meeting approval of the minutes from the June 20th, 2023 meeting?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the June meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? And I can't actually do a roll call vote because I'm not seeing you all. So if you just want one by one to say aye or nay,
If you'd like, Madam, I can call them out because I can see them all.
that would be great.
There you go. Mitch Cohen,
I'm going to abstain. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend that meeting.
Dan Brillhart.
Aye.
Where is he? Where the hell are you all? Oh, there he is. Tom Reardon,
Aye.
Diane Nicholas,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. And Don Rand.
And I'm an aye also. Aye.
There we go.
So the motion carries in the affirmative. Okay, the next item we have on the agenda is the results of the program study. Is the chief and Amy doing this?
I assume HKT will be heading it up, right?
HKT, yeah.
Janet's
Or
got
Tim?
a
Yeah,
PowerPoint.
I think Tim, Alex, where are you? You wanted to speak first?
Yeah, I
good.
just figured I'd kick it off before we get into that.
Yeah.
But really, Janet and Amy will be doing the bulk of the presentation tonight. But I just wanted to talk about a little bit about really what's been going on. So HKT has been brought under contract. They have already begun the survey work out in the field, and then last week met with representatives of the fire department to go through a programming study. There were some questionnaires sent out the previous week to really kind of get the thought process started on really what are some of the needs. And so that's really where Janet and Amy are going to go through. But we asked the Janet and Amy also to put together a schedule for us of really their work plan for getting us from now until really all the way through design, but specifically to town meeting in April. And so there's a lot of work to do between now and then. So I'm not sure if that's part of your presentation, Janet, but if not.
I do have it in a PowerPoint format. So if
Okay.
someone gives me, and then I can share it, and then Tim, you can go through it and I can jump in and, for highlights or.
Well, what
whatever.
I can talk about are just some of the first upcoming items, but we will send that out or make that available just so that everybody has it. Again, it's a starting point, and very, very easily things could change as we go. But there's a kind of broken down into a number of different categories, whether it's building committee meetings, community meetings, design type meetings. So obviously, right now we're in the kind of the middle there, this October 4th concept development. And we're going to be going into there we go. Thank
There
you. And so then, we're looking to meet again in 2 weeks to start taking a look at options. And then you can see a week after that on the 25th, we really want to look to try and see if we can't narrow down and finalize an option. So there's going to be a lot of activity, and it's going to be happening quickly. So we just want to make sure that that you guys are aware of this ahead of time, so we're all on the same page, and that we can try and get through this, with everybody's input and as quickly as we can, so that we can get out to the public, get some of this input from them as well as yourselves, and hit our April town meeting.
Right.
So
And go ahead, Tim, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's really what I wanted to kind of put out there. We discussed having a potential public workshop next week. And then that would help to develop that number of concepts to review, but we can get into that in a little bit further as part of the presentation, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Tim, did you get this out to everybody, or we can get obviously copies for everybody to detail through it, but,
We did,
Yeah.
Janet, we did not send out the schedule.
okay,
I wanted to go through the critical points first.
Okay.
So, after you've gone through the program study,
Yep.
there are some critical milestones that need to be met for your schedule. And there
Okay.
are some other meetings that, maybe can be combined or pushed or forgone, but certainly there are ones that absolutely need to be conducted. So why don't we get through the program study and
okay,
then we can delve deep into our schedules.
And
Yeah.
just before you leave this
yeah, okay.
window, that the 11th, I'm still going to be down here. Is it possible we could push that meeting out either a few days or to the next week? Because I really want to be at the public hearing. I'll be back. I'll be available the 13th or anytime the next week.
And I think, Janet, when we get to that, I there's an opportunity with a little bit of wiggle room in the schedule, that committee meeting number 3.
Yep.
Maybe, able to be pushed or combined or what have you a little bit, just to accommodate with the chief schedule and the tight time frame.
Absolutely. That's all up for discussion. We just, kind of made sure that we owned everything that we had talked about. But we realized there's a lot of meetings, and if we can combine or structure them differently, we're open for anything, that's what this is all about, is just talking about it through. So
Great.
yeah, we're good with that. Tim, this is design development. I don't know if you want to talk about this. There's another community meeting, and that's, I think, the one you were talking about, Scott, just now. I meant to throw that in there. And then there's a lot of meetings in design development, master plan, design review, planning boards. There's a lot of meetings that are going to happen. So
Yeah, I think it's just good because as we go through this, people can look ahead and see what might be a problem for them, or make sure that with enough time, enough notice, they can be available for certain meetings where we're going to need some decisions to be made. But I think it's just good to kind of all get on the same page up front, kind of set the expectations of what we're going to be doing, and certainly answer any questions before we get too far along, so that if we need to make changes or adjustments, like you were talking about certain dates, we can do that.
okay. And just because I have a third slide, I'll just throw this. This is the construction documents. Obviously, this only happens if the town approves moving forward at town meeting. But we'd be ready to to completely start immediately, and then so that we can get this out to bid in the early fall of 2024, and then construction starting thereafter and finishing up in January, February 2026. So that's the overall schedule, but this is obviously falls if we get there. Hopefully we get there. So okay. All right. So Scott, do you want me to take on the programming thing now?
Yeah, program study.
And then we'll come
updates is
back,
probably-
and then we'll come
probably
back.
best.
Okay.
Ready to come back to the schedule?
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay. So the space needs assessment process, we did, and as Tim said, we did questionnaires, a great response from the fire department, multiple responses from various folks at the fire department, which are great. We combined all those into one questionnaire. We had our on-site meeting. We used the questionnaire as a basis for discussion, and because our questionnaires, though they may be 8 pages long or so, they really just try to get people thinking about their needs. So we did our field observations first, where they were able to point out a lot of things that worked and didn't work, mostly just too small, not in the right space, things like that. We did extensive interviews with the personnel and the deputy chief and the captain. They were at that meeting, and the chief was on the screen the whole time, as well as Tim. And there were 3 of us there, and so we had a lot of opportunities to ask as many questions as we wanted and offer different ideas to them, and they were able to respond to them. I'll go through the clean station design. I have a slide just to do that, but just as a reminder that a lot of the approach to planning at fire stations now is to make sure that we do have these clean station design elements that are incorporated from the get-go. So after that was over, we came back to the office, we analyzed the functional needs, and we wanted that program to reflect not just the current needs, but their anticipated needs up to 20 years into the future. So we talked a lot during our meeting about how the organization structure for the department may change, how many staff members may be added, all kinds of things like that. They were all part of the discussion. So there are programming pieces that cover all of that. And then we created the new program summary, which is now sitting with the end users for review and comment. And so we're hoping to get some feedback, but that doesn't mean we won't kind of start. We have this very short amount of time. The major elements may need to be tweaked, but the overall pieces won't. We're never going to get rid of the apparatus space, for instance, but they make it bigger, smaller in the end. So we'll work on that. And then we'll have those preliminary results. This is the firefighter health issues that we're concerned about: carcinogens, elimination of cross-contamination, and how a firefighter comes back to the station and how they can be not carry that contamination from the apparatus space into their living quarters and their administration spaces. So that's all about that transition space between the hot and cold zones of the department. So we spend a lot of time talking about that, what we've seen, what we're seeing, how it may work. And then so, when we talked about it, we also talked about materials and lighting and views and outdoor dedicate. We didn't talk about those, but those will all be incorporated into the design to make sure that those are parts of the planning. So I just wanted to remind folks what is a big environmental issue right now for fire departments. The program summary, I have details of this, so don't worry, you can't read it, neither can I. There are these major elements. There's the public spaces, communications, there's the building support spaces, administration, staff support, operations, and then all the parking and other spaces, which are really quite important. I'll go through each one of these a little bit. I'm not going to go through them in detail. We'll get copies when the final program. But our focus at the very beginning of the conversation was how the public uses this building, what's expectations, how is the community met and greeted by the fire department staff, how do we do training and work the emergency operations center, and how can we make that a community room? All of those pieces work together for the community, and then the spaces that support all of those. So a couple things to point out, and I will get this maybe a little larger. So if you have any questions, you can ask. But the way they work now is, they have a lot less people coming into the stations, but 2 to 8 per day is a typical call for the people, and they are going to be met by the administrator. Recently, they've moved someone downstairs into that position, mostly for staffing up above, but that is how they want to do it. They want somebody to be able to meet and greet. A lot of things are done now, that they can do reports and things out online potentially, but they do have a lot of visitors. That building is open 24/7. They want to be able to lock down the interior doors of the vestibule so that people can still come in, but they can be restricted after hours. They'll have a video call system off hours. They'll have a baby safe haven notice there as well. And there was a bit of concern about hardened surfaces for those lobby spaces, service windows, so that people feel secure when they're in the building. So we'll enter into that conversation when we start designing the spaces. They also have 2 antique vehicles, one a hand tub and one a vehicle that they would like to display the hand tub, and they do use the old engine for parades and funerals. So they do use that quite a bit. So we're going to have to find a home that's going to have a home. Both of those are going to have homes in the new building. Again, we're moving the administration system down. We have 1 currently, and there'll be 2 in the future potentially. So we're making the space to support both of those. There's the training room in the EOC. We had a lot of discussion about how many people we're going to accommodate. We're showing 50 seats now. There was a comment, maybe we should go larger to 75. It's already at 1,200 square feet, so it's a pretty large space. We know that the size here will take 50 people with tables and chairs for training, and it'll take probably close to 100 in just chairs. So we can talk about that a bit. And then there are support spaces for this, storage room for tables and chairs, office space for the EOC so that all their equipment and what they need is easily available, public toilets, and a small kitchenette, because as the community room, they want to be able to provide a little bit of space for that. And so, and even when there's an EOC event, you also want to have a kitchen right in place. So that's how we get to the 3,273. You'll see these grossing factors and circulation adjustments. That's how we go from net square foot inside the walls of a space to the gross square feet, which includes walls and circulation factors. So that is the public space. We do add one, there is a communication for their PSAP, a backup space, so that if the main station goes down or they need to communicate or during an EOC event, that they would have the ability to have a singular station in a room located. We have to locate that, but that's only a 100 square feet space, so it's pretty small. It's not really dedicated for anything else at this point in time. And from an administration point of view, a fire station has, lots of offices, conference needs, document storage, support spaces for the department. And what you'll see here is that there's a fire chief, there's certainly a deputy fire chief, and there are captains. The captains share one room, and it's driven by the 4 shifts. There are some shared office spaces. The people wear dual hats. They do training, they do emergency management, public education officers, maintenance officers. They all have a little bit of roles, so they need some sort of supporting office space where we talk to them about, a room with perimeter countertops that people could come in and plug in, and they would have, depending on the needs, have dedicated box files or lateral files, whatever we decide in the end. So there are 2 of those rooms right now. And there's possibilities that some of these will go to full-time positions in the future. And so there may be a need for some spaces. And so we're trying to build a little bit of flexibility into these shared offices. And this was a lot of conversation. So this one has a little bit of thinking to do on it, but that's our thinking for that. There's also a call for either dual names fire marshal or fire prevention office. That is a future full-time a person that we're providing space for. And they're also talking about a command structure change where they would add the lieutenant into the mix. So on a particular shift, there will be a captain, a lieutenant, and the staff officers. Again, there are 4 people, 1 per shift. So again, they would share one individual space. And then a conference room and archive, document storage, in there, and then a small kitchenette. We don't necessarily need a kitchenette or staff toilets. We don't know. It really depends on how the building is planned out. What the levels end up being. We're not gonna. If there's a kitchen on the far side of the building and the chiefs and the officers are on the other side, we'd like to provide them, and we always do provide them a small, almost a small kitchenette. It's 5 feet long or something like that just has, a refrigerator, a small refrigerator and a microwave and things like that, so they can have coffee, whatever. So that's the office space. The next is staff support spaces, and this is for mostly the living. All of it is living quarters for the department folks. This is dorms, toilet, showers, locker rooms, quiet room, kitchen, day room, and the support spaces and a fitness space. These are spaces they have for the most part now, or mostly now, but in different ways. There's plans to increase the staffing in the future and go up to 36 people on 4 shifts. So it does change in the future. So all of this incorporates that thinking, especially things like the dorm rooms, the locker rooms, things like that. Instead of having, so we're going to have 44 24-inch wide lockers, not maybe the number they have today, but we have to plan for the future. Whether you buy the lockers now or not, that's not the point, but we have to have the physical space that we're not then tucking a locker inside a room it shouldn't be in. And so we have 7 single rooms. They have asked if we could make those rooms big enough to have a second bed in them, so that when they have extreme events or when even the groups get much larger, they can go to double rooms and things like that. So we have included that request into the space. That's not an unusual request. And we can talk to them further about that. We're proposing separate toilet shower rooms. We've gotten away from gang shower rooms. It allows more flexibility, especially with male and female staff in the future. So that's how we do it. And then the kitchen day room, they live there, they sit there, they cook there, they eat there, they do all that stuff. There's quite a bit of stuff. They have dedicated pantry storage for each shift, plus one as a community pantry, the things they share. They've asked for commercial grade appliances, which we always provide, and things like that. So there's an important space. And then there's support spaces. There's a residential washer and dryer, there's cleaning supplies, things like that. And a fitness. They have fitness center now, and they will have a fitness center in the future. And these are the pieces that we're going to plan for at this point in time. Right now, if you've been at the fire station, they have this a lot of these spaces all in one room. So this is the biggest component of it, is the operation space. And that is includes the apparatus bays, gear storage, the decontamination space, the scuba rooms, the medical supplies, report writing. This is everything that makes the fire station operate. Just to give you a bit of detail on this, they prefer 6 bays. They have, and these are in the mostly in the future, but these are the plan. They're not adding really many vehicles at all. They've gone to possibly a 4th ambulance in this, but van vehicles, ambulances, tanker trucks, heavy rescue tower, pickup forestry. The antique engine is located in here. Boat, gator trailer, all hazmat trailer, a squad car. And so these are all the equipment. When we start doing plans, we'll lay out the exact sizes of this equipment onto the plan so we can make sure that the combination work. We did talk a little bit with the department, and their 5 frontline vehicles are Engine 2, Tower 1, Med 1, Squad 4, and Rescue 1, and either a second engine or a second medic vehicle. So this is the apparatus bays that are planned. And then there are, host storage and host towers for training. The firefighters train on a regular basis. We like to use the apparatus space in the training and mezzanines, anything that we can to provide opportunities for training along the way. We're talking about a lot about a stair that they can use to learn how to pull hose along and those stairs, things like that. So we're going to accommodate all of that. Here's gear storage. Gear storage is in a separate room. We're going to have those same 44 lockers for the gear. And this is gear that they wear every day. They come in, they get their gear, they place it near their trucks, but this is all their other gear. They also are required to have a backup set of gear with them. And right now they store them in the fire stairs. And so we're just proposing a room that we have essentially big cubbies for these bags on shelving. To accommodate a lot of the decontamination areas, we have this series of spaces here. There's people decontamination and equipment decontamination. There's personal protective equipment, cleaning rooms, laundries, gear washers and dryers. Things that they already have and use that are spread all over the space. The way we're going to provide it is so that there's a way for the staff to get into from their trucks into those decontamination towers, into those gear rooms so they can shed their gear and keep it clean. And so that they don't start bringing that decontamination into every space off the apparatus space. So we'll be laying that out and working with the department to come up with a layout that they like, that they see working for them. But these are all the component pieces. We split them into square footages right now, and they will be separate rooms in many cases, but some of them sometimes get combined. There's also a mechanic space right now, and there will be in the future. There's an SCBA, that's their air tank fill room, and that has a workstation and shelving and cabinets for repair of tanks and battery packs. There's an air compressor room. They store oxygen that goes in the ambulances. They have dive equipment that right now is stored in the boiler room. And then there's a need for medical supply storage and bulk storage. There's a lot of things that just sit on the floors, sit on shelves, sit in small closets. We're going to try to create a room that is usable for them with shelving, with floor space. They have generators and sub pumps. They even have drone storage. They have speed dry, and they have a lot of hazmat materials that they carry, spare tires, sometimes emergency equipment. There's all kinds of things that go into bulk storage. And right now they have things just about anywhere that they can find a place to accommodate these things. So we're going to be planning useful space with shelving, doors that they can get in and out of. And then there's an area for report writing and radios. They have to charge their radios all the time. They have those all over the building. We're going to try to find a home for all of that together. And then a radio technician office. There is repairs to those radios, and there's equipment that is costly and expensive, and we want to be able to secure that room and make that work for them. So that is a bigger chunk of the space. And then so that the grand total right now sits at 27,115 gross square feet. And then there's other site elements that we noted here, an outdoor terrace or some outdoor space. They grill, they live there. They don't have any large antennas, but they will have all in the building, but we do note it because it becomes an issue of planning. There will be dumpsters, there'll be a generator and transformer, there will be a roll-up generator, rapid hookup for real emergencies. And then the way we did parking right now is we did the current staff at 10, which includes the 2 overlapping shifts, which have 5 persons, 1 captain and 4 staff members. So that totals 10. They do not leave and wait for the other crew. They have to overlap. So you have to have parking for that. There's additional future staff that adds a lieutenant and 2 more staff presence per shift. So that's how we got to 6. We counted all the administration staff that is planned, including the people that go from part-time to full-time roles as in the fire marshal, which is fire prevention, a second administrator, people like that. So we count that up. And then it's sort of arbitrary right now how many visitors, but we estimated possibly 30 for a 50 person community room, or up to 100. So we put 30 right now, and that's debatable, but it could go higher, maybe not much lower, because the staff, we always have to have staff space that's designated for the staff. And so we can't use that, the minimally those 16, the 16 spaces for, visitors or people that are coming to use that training room or the community room. So we have to think about that carefully, and it will also be driven by site as well. So that's the program. I know I try not to speak too fast, but there's a lot to get through right there. And there is, by the way, there are other support spaces, mechanical rooms and that too in the building. So that's all in here. So can I answer any immediate questions about this? Go back one more. There we go. Any immediate questions about program? I know it's a lot to take in.
Janet, I have a question.
Yes.
Where are the building mechanicals, transfer switch located?
Yeah, so those are right here in there, right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So somehow I know that was on that one of those pictures, but it must have gotten deleted, but here it is right there. I apologize for that. That's right there. You know, Amy and I have been talking about, there's a new building code. There's some spaces that might need to be increased to handle the pre-planning for things. So we'll be getting to that, but it's a good thing. One thing I wanted to point out for this, I'm glad you brought that up, is there is an exterior storage requirement. And that is, they want that to be a tempered space, but there's snow blowers and shovels and brooms and vehicle cleaning supplies and, you know, trash recycling that we're gonna be planning for. So that's it.
Thank you.
Question about the parking.
Yes,
This is, as you know, going to be a prime downtown space. You've probably heard that parking downtown is at a premium for the public.
yes.
I am sure, even if we didn't want it, the public will probably use some of this space for downtown parking.
Okay,
I'd rather try to plan and accommodate for that as much as possible,
okay,
by including as much parking as we can fit, so that
Okay.
in such a way that it obviously doesn't impede on the the critical nature of the building.
Right.
And whether there's a way of gently separating public slash parking from staff parking, so that if there is an event downtown that draws a lot of people can hopefully figure it out that
Right.
they should be parking in the space where a firefighter should be parking.
right. We'll definitely keep that in mind so that we, maybe there are a gate, the thing, or maybe, it's stamped on the ground and there's signage. That's why I'm glad you brought it up, because, we kind of put 30 in here right now. And day to day, they have visitors coming into the building. So there's going to be a lot of space potentially up front or in a common, easily recognizable space that would serve that purpose. So I'm glad I didn't put in, I had a lower number and I thought maybe this is not quite enough. So I'm glad I went up there. We'll see how high we can go. Okay.
Yeah, I think we all know this isn't going to solve the problem of parking downtown,
Uh-huh.
but people will gravitate to where there is parking there, and I'd rather provide it where we can.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
We've seen versions of this in the distant
Yes.
past in
Yes.
different, permutations of this committee.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to know, at least from myself, if I have any other specific.
Yeah, we'll get.
And I
once-
trust the department on all the program items. I
Right,
have curiosity questions with those, but wouldn't challenge anything at all.
right. And I
Yeah,
think.
if I can-
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in for a second, talk about the staffing. And so we're looking out, how far were we looking out, Janet? Like till
20
40
years. 20 years.
years. So
Mhm.
I have no idea what 20 years is going to
Mhm.
turn around be. So but I have seen many stations that were built and said, oh, we'll just build it to accommodate what we have now, or just a little bit more. And they outgrew it within a couple of years. That's
Right.
not what we want to have happen. We want to build a station, be there and be able to accommodate us as we grow, as our mission changes. That's why the numbers we were throwing out, that's why you're seeing the staffing levels and the admin.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Chief. I mean, it's one of the first questions I asked, Amy asked, we all were sitting there about, is there going to be, a change in, structure of the department? It's one of the most important things. So we spent a lot of time talking about staffing, and, your mission does change and your staffing does change. And, we don't want to build to what you have now and just right size things. We've got to think far into the future. And 20 years is sooner than you think, in many ways. So for building, certainly, it's before the first roof repair and before the first mechanical system failure eventually. So we want to hopefully get it right the first time. And I think, you guys were great about, you had a lot of different, and just so the committee knows, they had a lot of different people, viewpoints on it. And it was really good conversation with the deputy and Captain Bill Hart. So it was a good conversation.
A question
Okay.
for I'm
Any
sorry.
other questions?
Sorry, Don, I have one more question probably for the chief. relative to the first round of feasibility, I don't remember off the top of my head what the square footage was that we came up with. Do you happen to know off the top of your head if this is dramatically different one way or the other? If
It's
you-
actually within, I think it's within a couple thousand.
Okay, perfect.
It's really close.
I
Yeah.
want to say we were at about 26,000.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really close.
Yeah, we pulled out, just so, I knew this question was gonna come up, we pulled out the budget number for the, in 2019, and the number was 26,420. So we're at 27,415 right now, it's a plus of 695.
Great.
So we're pretty close, considering, and things may go up a little bit, especially mechanical spaces. Amy and I were talking about just before we came in, reviewing that once again. And the chief they still have to weigh in. Did we get it right? We had a lot of information. We met for hours. So there's a lot of information that passed between us. And so these guys are just getting to look at this as of maybe Monday or something like that. We were there only on Wednesday or Thursday, so it takes a couple days to pull together. So it might go up a little bit. We're hoping not, but it's pretty close, and we hope we included everything we need. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Janet, question.
Yes.
For the fire stations your team has worked on in the last few years,
Mhm.
this has got a 27,000 plus gross square foot footprint. How does that compare to other projects you've worked on? Bigger, smaller, average? Just that feel?
And Amy, jump in here too. I think it's pretty average. We've had maybe one a little bit smaller, but that was a much smaller site, and they were very limited what they could do. So, that got a little smaller, but I don't have any exact numbers in front of me. I could figure that out, but I think it's pretty
Okay,
average.
just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say that there were no unusual asks here at all. It was really in line to what we're seeing, the spaces, nothing crazy, nothing unusual, nothing that caused us any pause whatsoever. So.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would echo what Janet said. I agree with all that. I think the other thing that you have to remember when you go to make comparisons from town to town, or the apparatus bays are such a huge driver for the overall square footage, and that's really dependent on what equipment every town has, and that can really be the greatest variance. But I think it's true that there was nothing extraordinary that they asked for, and nothing that didn't sort of correspond to what we saw as we were walking through the station.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, could I ask a quick question?
Uh-huh.
Can any of the program be in a basement, or is this viewed as a slab on grade structure?
Amy,
I can speak. I can
go ahead,
speak to
please.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
the intent was slab on grade for this, mainly because of the weight of the apparatus. You really don't want to start, if you don't want to, you don't have to put a basement underneath there. You don't want to.
Another concern would be trying to keep all the soils on site as best we can, considering the prior use of the building. We did have a clean remediation report done, but that is limited to where the remediation efforts were done. So one of the objectives was to keep all this, as much soil on site as possible.
Thank you.
I would have to agree with all of that. We've done one double-story fire station at one point, and it's pretty heavy duty trucks, you're carrying for the structure of that. So not a preferred way of building a fire station, but not even a lot of spaces. A lot of the conversation during an initial planning would be like, who's on the first floor? Who's on the first floor? Where is the staff live? Some departments want the administration to be on the upper floor, so that the staff is closest to their equipment. Other people say, we want to keep the public or administration functions on that first floor and put the staff up a little bit more privacy, a little bit. So those are things we still haven't even talked about, although we have a sense we're headed here. So that's there's not a whole lot in the basement, not a lot of storage. The storage stuff that they have is not small, and fairly heavy, sort of thing. So
Okay, if there's no
Madam
further
Chair, I have a
question,
question.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation on the program. To what extent do you think that the program as it's currently outlined has opportunity for flexibility, but also, I don't like the word future-proof, but what aspects of the program do you think have the potential to support expansion or, some change of use within the way that the firehouse is operating?
Amy, please jump in. I would say one of the things is, some of the, oftentimes when we see changes in the fire departments, it's a staffing change or whatever, adding more lockers or an office space being needed that wasn't needed before, and you're trying to shoot somebody in. That's why I think the deputy chief is right now. There's been a lot of changes because of that. So we tried to plan on some flexibility in the office space. So it could go, that's why I did like 2 office spaces. So if one had to be converted to a singular office, they could do that, and a space is big enough that it maybe could accommodate a few more computers and things like that. So we've done some of that stuff. And when we lay out things like the apparatus space, we're going to make sure that we have the right spacing between the bays, not that we want to try to jam in another trailer or something like that. But, sometimes the departments are asked to do things like that. I think those are the big ones. And then, of course, planning for the future of the firefighting staff, the amount of locker space so that we don't end up with lockers in the hallways or jammed into rooms or things like that. And that we keep them, we keep those spaces. And we may talk to the chief about potentially splitting some of those bigger rooms into 2 pieces so that he has a little bit more flexibility in the future about how he maybe accommodates things like that. So we'll be talking about that. So those are some of the things we've done. Amy, do you have any other thoughts on what we might have done?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that comes to mind is the way that we handle the toilet and shower rooms in the living quarters. It used to be that we would have, a single male room and a single female room, and we would have to sort of guess on the proportion of lockers that you'd put in the female locker room so that you could accommodate future staff, where we design it so that we have a single locker room, and then you put your belongings in the locker room, but you get them out and you go into individual single occupancy toilet shower rooms. That allows for flexibility so that the proportion of male and female staff members can really change. And I know that that's something that has been an issue with the current station, and certainly the department hopes that they can attract more female firefighters in the future. So we try to think about things like that.
Thank you.
okay, anyone else? All right, not hearing any more questions. The next item is consideration of milestone schedule.
I could go back to the schedule if you want, but oops. So Scott, do you want to take this on for a little bit?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
So as Janet mentioned earlier, and Tim, we have a tight schedule in hopes of getting to town meeting in April. The schedule presented in front of you has a couple critical milestones. You can see them in the blue lines, the blue rows with the red outline. Community session input sessions are kind of critical points where we want to get to. The first one, and Chief indicated that the 11th he's not available. We could push it off a little bit, but not too much, because again, the goal is to get to town meeting. So when we see the green committee meetings, committee meeting 2, which is under schematic design, item 3, is presenting the design alternatives and the committee selecting the preferred one. That combined with committee meeting 3 is probably the most critical working session this group is going to have. The community input session next week or early in the following week. Obviously, HKT needs in order to advance through the options. But once the committee selects that option, getting in front of the public November 15th is again another critical point, so that we can have consensus and HKT and Colliers can push forward with estimates and really get the design fine-tuned on the financial side. So Chief, you had indicated next week is likely, well, the 11th and 12th are not good for you.
Yeah, I'm heading back from Carolinas on Thursday. So Friday I'm available, or anytime the following week.
So having a community input session on a Friday evening, especially when it's Friday the 13th, I'm not sure that's a wonderful idea. I'm not a really superstitious person, but it's a bad foot to start on, maybe.
Could we do
Janet-
the Monday?
There's a BOS meeting Monday,
Yeah.
so
So-
Tuesday probably.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday would have to be it.
Yep.
Scott and Janet, what are the formats for these? Is this a live session, for example, at town hall or a library, or is it Zoom like
Hey.
this, or what's the format?
So Amy, you want to take that? So we have a
Well,
couple ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we wanted to talk to you guys about. And we didn't know if you, first of all, had any community sessions recently in town and what's worked for you and what hasn't. We do have a couple of ideas. We've done it different ways. It depends a little bit on what you want to present to them. I mean, we could have the committee, someone at the committee or the OPM sort of introduce the overall project scope and the schedule to people who are there. And then we could show what the proposed site is, just sort of have an image of the overall site. And then we'd like to try to get some discussion going within the community. And we can do it a couple of different ways. We oftentimes do visioning sessions where we come up with 3 to 5 questions that we ask to the community, and then we hand out Post-it notes to everyone and ask them to write down responses to those questions. We then collect them and go over the responses, and it's a really good way to make sure that everyone has a chance to participate. You know, when we have these community meetings, if you ask people to just get up and speak, you tend to hear from the same very vocal citizens over and over and over again. And there are people who are too shy to get up and have their thoughts heard, even though they might have really wonderful ideas to share. So if you have everyone write it down, it sort of evens the playing field and gives everyone a chance to have their voice heard. So we could do something like that, or we could have just a more of an open discussion event if you thought that would work better with your community. But we kind of wanted to talk to you about what you've done recently and what works and what doesn't work, since it's different everywhere that we work.
What I've found to be useful is sort of a blend of what you're describing, Amy, in that you have the framed questions. And instead of giving them blank answers, give them an opportunity to provide a blank answer, but also give them, I guess, for lack of better terms, the colored stickers. What here are the 4 or 5 answers that you have to pick from, and then choose, and then have your own. So we've framed the approach and don't spend a lot of time or get a lot of wide-ranging responses where there's not a lot of consensus. We can really fine-tune the potential consensus on a handful of prospective answers and really see where the community is leaning toward.
Okay.
I personally, I
Okay.
like in person best. I'm not sure
Oh, yeah.
what the committee's decision is, but I would far prefer in person for something like this.
Absolutely. In my
Yeah.
opinion, yeah.
I think
Okay.
I agree about in person.
And I
think
echo that
it is-
too.
it is critical to get Northborough Cable to fully record it so that those who couldn't attend and participate can watch the details later. That will be a good number of people.
How
Yeah,
many- Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think location-wise, the library meeting room is probably the best. It's the largest, unless we wanted to get into the school, but I don't think we're gonna turn out. I think it would probably be the best location.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how many people might you expect and where could
Yep.
you have it? We just did a community meeting, Amy and I, a couple weeks ago, that they thought they might get maybe 20 people, over 70. Um, and it was great. We got more, they hand wrote responses and we got 616 written responses at the meeting. It was fabulous. I mean, but it was shocking. So we want to be prepared.
It was shocking.
For everybody,
The town administrator said he never could have guessed some of the answers that we got to the questions that we asked. So it was really revealing and helpful.
Yeah, and they had just had a community meeting about a week or two before then. They got 5 people.
Hmm.
So who knows? You know, it was the topic, it was the timing, who knows? But, you know, we'd want to be as prepared as possible for you. So, you know, whatever. You have to do some you know, reaching out to people that you want to be there. And we always say, and I think it's really important to hear the people that support the project and the people who don't support the project. And you want to hear them from the get-go. We're not afraid of people being upset about it or concerned about it, whether it's from the budget point of view, what it looks like, or what we're accommodating the building or not. You know, because we want to know, we want to give the committee and the town and the fire department and certainly us an opportunity to understand their concerns and then react to them and get, you know, the answer their questions so that by time they get to a point of supporting the project that they can support it for good reason. So that's, you know, the purpose of these is to build that support as well. So, okay. All right. So Scott, should we, do you want to come up with some things you have in mind? I mean, we should talk about this with the small group a little bit, like how do we come up with these questions that we can come up with something that we can throw out there, but we want to make sure that they're tailored to the things. I have a feeling you already have some ideas on what it is you want people to be thinking about or talking about at this first session. Is that true?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
If you email over some canned questions you have, Chief and I have some in mind. We'll, you know, back and forth a little bit on our side, get a handful. I'm guessing the number is somewhere in the 5 to 8 range, and then we can formulate some multiple choice answers. Get it back to you guys, and we go back and forth, and that should kind of polish off what we're looking for. Always leaving the opportunity for an open answer to any question and the general suggestions. You know, you know, if we're looking at the 17th at the library, it seems like, you know, before, it looks like you needed a solid week between input and meeting 2. So going from it looks like the meeting 3 on the schedule, October 25th, would actually be a combined 2 and 3, which gives you the time to get the concept together, the preferred option.
Okay, so we would skip that meeting on the 18th and move it to the 25th, and as a combined, it gives us a little bit more time to do options and certainly get those comments into the conversation as well. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yep, that's good.
Okay.
And you know, between the 8th and the 15th, we have an opportunity to, you know, go through the presentation and what we're putting before the public.
Okay. Okay. Amy or Mark, you have any comments on that or questions on that one? Change?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, that's good. What other ones from a schedule?
So once community input session 2 is complete, you're full bore into cost estimating.
Mm-hmm.
And once the cost estimate is together, the next committee meeting is pretty critical, that mid-December one.
Correct.
That's when the scissors and the erasers and the fists come flying. So that's probably a hard one to hit before the holidays. Pushing that any further out would be problematic when it comes to trying to schedule a meeting, I think, with everybody's, you know, holiday schedules coming around.
Yeah, that's what we kind of thought. We were concerned. We spent a bit of time trying to figure that one out. It takes about 3 weeks to do a cost estimate. We've been talking about doing rolling reviews, so we keep working, you know, to keep the project working. But, you know, obviously it's a really critical date for us,
So-
as well. So, okay.
So we'll hard date right now, the 17th, the 25th, and the 15th and the 13th. Those are all critical dates, and understanding that there may be committee members that can't attend due to prior arrangements, but as long as we have a quorum, and you could keep up to date on the progress and process, I think it's critical that we keep those dates.
Okay.
I'm not going to
Okay.
suggest an alternative, but I do want to call out a concern on the November 15th input session number 2. That's the week that the select board has tentatively scheduled to do our final interviews for town administrator candidates. Obviously, that's a separate process than this. There may be members of the public that would want to attend both. And the biggest drawback would be if we had the interviews that night, there wouldn't be any select board members attending the public input session, which is a bit concerning. Given that that's a month and a half out, and I'm saying if and maybe and so forth, I'm not suggesting we choose another date, but I wanted to throw that out there as that might become an issue. And we may just have to live with it and just have both the meetings at the same time.
Well, Mitch, you see, we were trying to avoid all of Thanksgiving week
Yeah.
as well.
And that's exactly why we schedule them, potentially that week. But
Yeah.
I basically have Monday through Thursday blanketed as we might have to do interviews that night. We'll probably use 1 or 2 nights of those. We won't be able to schedule those definitively until we have candidates, and we don't have candidates yet.
Okay.
That's kind of where we are, but I think it's a risk we need to own and just recognize that it's there.
I
Mitch,
guess.
do you think by the October 25 meeting that you will have
No.
determination? No? Okay.
No, it's going to be about a week prior.
Okay. All right.
I suppose we could move it to that community session to after Thanksgiving. I don't know, Amy, Mark, I can't remember exactly how we picked this date. I know we were trying to avoid Thanksgiving. We were, we wanted to have any final comments, but it cost us, but that's not going to affect it because we can't do that much change in a week.
Why don't we keep
anyhow,
it,
so.
why don't we keep it the 15th? And if we need to move it out, we can always have a week time, we
Yeah.
can move it out.
Yeah, okay,
I think that is the right thing to do, and recognizing there may be surprises that happen in the search schedule.
oh,
also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot going on in Northborough.
Okay.
Yeah, a question. Thinking ahead, what's your convention for drafting some designs of the building, a concept design? And what do you typically present to this group? And then what do we take to the community? Is it 2, 3, 5, 6? How does that work? Just to set the expectation.
Amy, you want to take that? Yeah. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was just I was looking at the schedule and trying to think what we had sort of thought through. So, I mean, the plan is, we're going to come up with 2 or 3 plan options basically and site options to run by you first, and then from that start to develop a single option into massing elevations and a more defined plan and eventually more defined elevations and everything. I think with this schedule, the idea was to have some of those elevations worked out and reviewed by the committee before we go to the community. Janet, was that what we were thinking?
Yes,
Before
exactly.
community input numbers 2. So we would, as we got that input from the community, then we would finalize something so that we could move into getting the cost estimate done.
Makes sense. Good.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be putting anything in front of the community that the committee hadn't seen and put their, yes, you can show this sort of approach. I mean, I know these are all public meetings, anybody can see this, but I mean, the committee has been charged with shepherding this project through the town, and they do have, someone has to be able to make, comments and decisions in a more formal process. So, it would be definitely in front of you folks first. So.
Yeah, no, I think we do have a meeting, the committee meeting number 4 on November 8th. I think that was missed in our discussions. So I think that would be an opportunity to review
Oh, yeah, right, the right up on line item 8, right there. I was pointing out, there is time, there's a week before that, that you'd see that too, so. I just highlighted in red the community meetings because I knew they were going to be a big issue to find time for, so. Okay.
I could throw out a couple of suggestions or things to think about as far as schedule. It might be worthwhile for the design team to come to a select board meeting sometime in the, November or December timeframe as a way of getting in front of the select board to keep the select board's excitement going on this project. Obviously this will eventually need a positive vote by the board to place it on the warrant and the ballot in the spring. So to provide any opportunity to flesh out any questions there, we host most of our meetings by Zoom, and I anticipate we'll be continuing that until we can shift to a fully hybrid in the next few months. So that provides an opportunity for members of the public who wouldn't be able to attend an in-person meeting that might want to comment on something in a Zoom meeting fashion.
Through the chair, Mitch, do you think it's worthwhile to consider the November 20th select board meeting as a possible community input session? I don't know. I'm trying not to jam everybody up with far too many meetings, but
yeah, I think the timing works well. I don't think it's a good idea to replace the traditional in-person input meeting with something at a select board, because we'll have many other things on our agenda. It's not going to be as focused as a public input meeting, and you get kind of different things out of each one, a remote versus an in-person.
right,
And
so
I know that's asking a lot of particularly the design team, but I wanted to throw that out there as something I think is worthwhile to do sooner rather than later.
So maybe, there's the January committee meetings and community input session number 3 under design development. That may be a point that, and maybe, I don't know if you believe that that's too far down the design process. By the time you're in DD, it's
done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe
we have a very active select board. As I think some folks know, that if members want to opine as far as anything, it's earlier is better.
I believe there's a BOS meeting on 10/23. There's one on 10/16. I think there's one on 10/23. Is that correct, Mitch?
Yes, both of those.
I think 10/23 would probably be an appropriate one if they're just going to come and do a quick. Would you agree, Mitch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think as long as everybody, I don't expect the full building committee to attend, although of course everyone's welcome. But I think that's a great timing.
Amy and Jen, does that work for you, the 10/23 meeting?
10/23, October 23rd?
Yeah, October 23rd.
Okay, so that's pretty quick because we just changed the 18th meeting to the 25th. And so
I think we're better off on November 20th coming to the board. It's after the community input session number 2. The architect hasn't really hit the ground too hard moving after community input session number 2, but a preferred design option has already been selected at that point.
I just wasn't quite sure what Mitch is looking for, if he's,
Yeah.
yeah, so could you
November
explain that
6th
again?
is another date.
October 6th.
November 6th
November 6th.
is another select board meeting.
Okay.
That might be a better one, Mitch. That might be the best one.
Yeah, Amy and Mark. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have, I think, I'm looking at this and thinking, actually though, I have another project. Not that that's a problem. I just want to make sure I don't have a meeting.
I don't think
on
we
the-
have one scheduled then, Janet.
We do not. I'm just checking. I have the calendar right in front of me. So that they meet on Mondays. That's the reason I bring it up, so. But yeah, the 10-6 sounds better. I mean, 11-6 sounds better. We'll have, you know, like we said, we'll have more information. I don't want to go and share have something that's not really been vetted yet. I think the
Yeah.
October one is a little early. Okay, 11-6. Okay.
Thank you very much on that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that in my my draft agenda for the meeting.
Okay, does anybody else have concerns about the scheduling?
One last clarification, Madam Chair. Would you consider
Yeah.
this a critical path to the town meeting? Or is it a subset of this? Question for Janet.
You're asking me?
Okay, I was just gonna say, could you repeat that? I didn't understand that completely.
Would you consider this the critical path to the town meeting, or is it a subset of this?
I think this work, all the work that we've described at the town meeting will get you with a very good estimate, if that's what you're talking about, and we need to do all these steps to get to a good estimate. Amy, is that?
Yeah,
good?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when we put the schedule together, that was our goal, was to get you a DD level estimate for town
Right.
meeting.
Right.
And so that was how we looked at the dates.
Fine.
Yeah, we sort of started at the end date and worked back and then tried to plan all the public meetings that had to happen and the work. We can't forget we have work to do in the middle of this, and you know, that was what, and you know, we think we haven't heard exactly from you how you're going to present at town meeting, what you're going to ask for, but I assume it's the entire project through construction, because you already have design funds set up for bidding. So you know, you're not going later in the fall to ask them for something else. You're gonna ask for it, I assume, at that Springtown meeting, but that's certainly a question. It's not a report, it's actually asking for the money. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think
Sorry,
that's
yes. Yeah,
everyone's
that would be
anticipation.
correct.
The other date I would throw on there is, I believe it's May 14th is our annual election. My presumption is this is going to be a debt exclusion project, so it will require a ballot vote.
Sorry, what was that date, May?
Let me double check it. I think it's May 14th. I could be off. May 14th. Yeah.
We'll change that, you know, notice to receive thing after the debt
Yeah.
exclusion vote.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, got that. Thanks.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
About these meetings. Yeah.
There's one other committee that might want to see this in the process, is the Zoning Board of Appeals, because I think they'll be one of the reviewing committees eventually for the project. Because you're in a groundwater 3 zone and you need site plan approval with a special permit.
So that needs to be scheduled with zoning board of appeals, right?
Or if they could combine with the planning board or some other board, I'm not sure, but I think you're going to be going before design review, planning board, and the ZBA.
Good point, Tom.
Scott, could you coordinate that with those boards?
I will, yes.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. We haven't discussed a time for these meetings. Does 6 o'clock work for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if
Yeah.
7 o'clock might be better for the public input sessions.
I would go with that. I agree.
Okay.
So we'll make those 7 o'clock public input.
Yep.
Is that everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
All
right.
Good. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Janet that's presenting. If you could zoom in on this schedule on this page.
Sure. Come on.
Too small for me to see
Oh,
this.
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's right.
So,
Thanks. I don't think it's necessary to put any of those dates in stone quite yet.
No, there's a couple that are to be determined mid-February, a Tuesday in March, sort of things, because we really don't know where we are right yet on some of those.
Yep.
So. But if anybody has dates that they know of, or, they're in conflict with, we'll certainly modify a couple of these right away that we know of. That we talked about tonight, so.
I think once we get to the December 13th committee meeting, after the estimate, we can iron out the DD phase meetings, and are there opportunities to combine? Do
Yeah,
we
yeah,
need more public input? What's the status on the, the public perspectives of the project and that type of
Right.
thing?
yeah. Right,
Yeah, we also have a pretty active design review committee.
yep, we have that in here. I think we
It
have
might be
two.
worth penciling in a couple of meetings for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on their behalf. That's just a gut feeling.
Yeah, we have
Um,
one in mid-February right now scheduled, and I think we have, and then one during the construction documents, but are you thinking before that, perhaps?
Possibly before. I
Okay.
think they'll be most interested in the exterior
Sure.
of the building, and this is going to be a keynote building to our downtown. So I think everyone wants to pay it all due attention to make sure that this is a great anchor for downtown revitalization that we're all working on.
Right, right. And we'll be talking, we want to talk about, Mark has already done an extensive photo survey of buildings in town and materials and things like that. So we want to talk about that right away, early on, so you
Great.
can expect to hear from us on materials and that, and your thoughts on what we want to pursue, right away. So, so we don't start down a pathway that, that we think not going to be well received. So I think this is your building, and, it's got to reflect your standards, so.
And the only other item I caught on that other schedule was Valentine's Day. Having an evening meeting then might cause a frown in my household. Again, we can iron out those dates later.
Yeah.
On the details
We
now.
have we did, committee meeting. Oh my goodness, Valentine's Day. Okay. Gonna have to remind my husband of that one, so. Yeah.
We can all meet at one of the beautiful restaurants in North.
Okay.
Okay. So I
Alright.
think that takes care of the schedule for the time being. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to tell you two quick things about schedule. The survey is being finalized. We had a question into Scott, but I think it's something that will not impact our design. And I think they are going to want to start the traffic. They're going to start on the traffic survey process next week. Should we be coordinating with you about anything as soon as possible? I just want to check with that. Because we had given us the notice to proceed on that report. And so they're getting it into their schedule. And I just heard today that they want to get going on that. I don't know what their first steps are, so is this you, Scott, that we coordinate with?
Yeah, work through me. As they communicate with Mass DOT, just have them copy me on the correspondence if in the event they need an echo of their requests. Northborough's happy to ring the bell.
Okay, well, we'll get in touch with them tomorrow. We just heard that just before the meeting started, so we'll get back to them and find out the details tomorrow. Okay,
And we're ready for your test bits whenever you are. Just a couple
Okay.
days notice, dig safe, and we're done. We'll go.
okay, good. So we'll have, once we set the building, or close to setting the building, we'll start the geotechnical program with your, that part, and then test pits along the way so that we have the whole, as much of the story as we can tell. Okay,
Okay.
that's, thank you. Sorry, I didn't interrupt. I meant to do that earlier, so.
Okay.
all
So
right.
the next thing on the agenda would be the public input session format and method, and you basically talked about that. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nothing from us. We have some work to do on that. Okay,
Scott?
Nope, I think it'll go well. We'll be coordinating with Colliers and HKT frequently in advance of that, but we've all done the public input process, and I'm glad we're doing it in person with poster boards and and pencils as opposed to some virtual Survey Monkey thing.
Yeah, I don't like those very much.
I agree.
Okay. Let me
So
think.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, one final
Talk about the
note.
future. Yes,
I just want to emphasize that the design review guidelines used by the design review committee were specifically developed to address buildings in this downtown business district. So I would urge you to learn those design guidelines thoroughly because they will come up frequently.
thank you.
Thank you.
Very well stated.
Okay, and we've discussed the future meeting schedule and any other business that may legally come before the committee. Does anyone have anything else? I only have one thing. Before Mr. Reed left, he had sent a message that we should have somebody taking our minutes. It looks like we're going to have Lorraine doing our minutes, Chief.
Yep, we're taking care of it.
So briefly, Madam
All
Chair.
right, so that's all taken care of.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So the sort of the structure going forward, we discussed this internally as staff. I'll be handling sort of the project management piece of it, coordinating OPM, architects, site access, sort of the nuts and bolts implementation piece. The chief and deputy chief will be handling more of the operational pieces, the scope, the needs, that component. And Lorraine, the administrative staff at FD, will be handling the administrative pieces about agenda posting, minute preparation, packet distribution, that type of thing. So we've kind of come up with an approach to divide and conquer, and I think we're all staying in our areas of expertise doing it. So it'll bode well, I think, for the committee and the project.
Yeah, that sounds great. I was feeling bad for whoever might end up having to do these minutes. And now I feel bad for Lorraine.
I would too.
Okay.
I'll have to buy her
Anyone
some, whatever, yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I just want to, so the next meeting is the 17th at 7 o'clock. That's the community input. I'll speak to Lorraine. We'll get an agenda put together that's in person. We'll have to reach out to, you want me to reach out to Jen and get the room, or you want to reach out?
Sean, can you coordinate that with Jen? Make sure there's no programs in there.
Yeah, I'll follow up with her.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate your
Motion to,
questions.
Thank you.
thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
A second?
Second, yeah.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody saying no?
Nope.
Okay. All right. We'll see you all on the 17th.
Okay, guys.
Good night.